Absolutely glorious. Oh, hello. Morning. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah. Mr. Minch, you're looking really, really cheerful this morning. How are you?
It's all good, man. I'm so happy because I've got my good friend and pal, Mr. Tony Martin. I know everyone thinks he's called Toby. He likes to be called Tony. All right?
Yeah. I wish I was called Tony. That's why I ask everyone to call me Tony, because, you know, I feel like a Tony. I look like a Tony. Yeah.
And
if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a Tony.
And it's no wonder with that sort of misogynistic introduction that the women in property have such an issue. I'd like to welcome Megan first, actually, because, of course, you know, you might see people, David,
a true feminist. I don't need to justify going first. No, you send the boys first. It's fine. I'll wait at the back.
As a true feminist, I never hold the door open. Never give up my seat.
Not even. So Toby Martin, let's just get this soundbite. You would not give up your seat on a crowded bus to a pregnant lady with a buggy and 3 kids.
I've got too much respect for her.
He's saying he would have told Rosa Parks to get back there.
Sit down. Sit down.
Would have been stronger for it.
Toby's career's been going so well until he came on the
Good morning to everybody, to all our viewers and to all our guests. Obviously, we are joined by the fantastic Mr. Toby Martin, the fantastic Ms. Megan 18, and the fantastic Mr. Simon Whale. And we're here today to talk about the Propertymark Trust. I must say hello to all the listeners, hello to all the viewers, and a special good morning to my friend, Charlie Lambden. Love you, Carl. Love it. So, welcome back. Today we're here to talk about something that nobody talks about. And it's not Fight Club, but it's very similar. It's the Propertymark Trust.
Yes.
It used to be called the Arbon Trust. So let's unpack the changes that are happening there and why you're changing up a gear by appointing 2 very prominent, if I might say, trustees.
Do you want to take this one, Toby, or do you want me to take it?
Well, I'm trying to work out who the 2 prominent trustees are. I think that might be
Lauren and David, obviously.
Yeah, Sophie Lang. Yeah.
If I'm honest, Toby, I had an issue with the word trust.
Commitment issues from Simon.
It's something we have to build.
Okay, well let's talk about, perhaps Toby, you could tell us a little bit about the history of the charity. But obviously, I feel, at least from talking to you two, that there's a bit of a change in tempo, if not direction. So tell us about where you've been and where you're going to.
So certainly in terms of me as a trustee, it's early days. I've just come on board, still getting to learn the ropes, but I've been familiar with the trust for a little while. I've seen up close the work that they do, and you're right, they have been around for a while, previously under the name of the Arbon Trust. But I think in a drive to sort of raise awareness and familiarity with who we are and what we do, the rebrand has more closely aligned us with Propertymark, because we are the charitable arm of Propertymark, and our raison d'etre is to thank you, multilingual, is to support Propertymark members, colleagues of Propertymark members, and close family and friends of Propertymark members, really when life hits the skids. And I think that it's probably fair to say that at the moment we're a well-kept secret, and we don't really want it to stay that way. And yeah, the work that we do and the support we can offer, I think probably is something that a lot of members and their close connections need to be aware of. And I'll throw to Megan, and she can kind of maybe tell you a little bit more about exactly what that work is.
Well, what a beautiful segue that was. So basically, I think the big misconception about the Propertymark Trust is that it's just for Propertymark members. But actually it's for colleagues of Propertymark members and family of Propertymark members. So how many times have we said Propertymark members in 6 minutes on air? It's impressive. So basically, if you've hit financial hardship or difficult times for various different reasons, then you can apply to the Propertymark Trust for a grant of some description. So just to give a couple of examples, we recently helped a wonderful agent down in Cornwall who unfortunately whose sister passed away really suddenly, completely out of the blue, small children, and the Propertymark Trust helped pay for her funeral, only to then find that 2 days after the funeral that they lost the dad as well. So the family had 2 major bereavements in such a small space of time. So again, we paid for the funeral and we offered to pay for counselling, although their employer did actually pick that up. But we've also offered ongoing counselling for one of the children who's autistic. So we go from that to, we had a gentleman that had suffered a severe stroke and was wheelchair bound, suddenly couldn't get in his house. So we paid to have a ramp and widening of doors done. We've supported members at Arban House, our head office, Hogwarts. And don't laugh, Simon. It is Hogwarts. It's magical.
I'm just thinking of you as Dobby, actually.
I could do that. And we supported somebody through their wages during cancer treatment. We supported somebody who needed to take time off to support their partner during cancer treatment. So, there's a real range of different things. And we actually launched a grant for Storm Kieran for those who were affected by the storm and needed some support to get maybe the office back up or whatever it might be. So what we're saying is there's no hard and fast rule about what your financial hardship should be. Come and talk to us and we will try and support you.
And I think the underpinning principle is that obviously these are really grave issues affecting people's personal lives, but we all know that your personal lives are inextricably linked to your working lives. So the fact that this is sort of aimed not just at Propertymark members, but Propertymark members and their colleagues and families recognises the fact that without this support, it would be very hard to continue to fulfil the work you're doing in the workplace. And hopefully the support that in the instances that Megan mentioned has kept those people on track in their professional careers, as well as helping them at home as well.
I think also highlighting there though was the point, Toby, that actually sometimes people can get a bit distracted. If it's obviously some of these fantastic charity work about illnesses, and sometimes they can feel a bit distant and everything else, and that's still no reason not to back those. But as you've highlighted with those perfect examples there, and Megan's just talking about, these are everyday challenges, and literally everyone will know somebody, friends or family, who's been hit by these kind of terrible everyday challenges.
I think on the other side of the coin as well, I think it was something like we've supplied like hundreds of financial grants for education purposes. So for those negs that want to do their level 3 or and they can't afford to, so they'll support them through that with a grant there. There's tons of different things, and Sophie's just rightly pointed out it's not just about finances, it's about that emotional support.
Whoa, Megan, you don't break the fourth wall. If anyone breaks the fourth wall, it's me and David.
It's not my first radio, Simon.
You just casually dipping into the comments.
Dipping in.
Yeah, okay. What about backing PropTech people in their ivory towers doing those qualifications so that we vaguely know what you guys do? What about that?
Well, that would be good, wouldn't it? I mean, I feel like we already, put our arms around the Simon Whale cause this last year. So
yeah. That ship has sailed and returned to port looking a little bit healthy.
Just as a matter of interest there, Megan, I know we're talking about obviously fantastic for everyone to get their support. How there's so many brilliant suppliers in this industry that obviously ally themselves with things. Is it possible for them to both to get behind this cause? Can you just talk us through that?
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways. So funny enough, this podcast wasn't actually necessarily about saying give us money, because actually, of course, we would always want to fundraise, but actually we really want to spread some awareness out. Now, one of the things that we're currently doing is we are in the middle of rebuilding our board of trustees. So hence Toby and I's arrival. And we discussed that actually, we've got an amazing group of core Propertymark people. Well, we now want to spread that bubble a little bit wider, because we want the trust to be, supported by, different surveyors, solicitors, suppliers. So we would really welcome applications from, suppliers that are passionate about working with the Propertymark Trust, whether that be as a trustee or as an ambassador.
It's going to be so awkward, Megan, when you have to choose between me and David to be the supplier representative on that board. I mean, thank you for coming on here to bestow one of us with it. Who's got the gig?
I was told that this was actually an online interview taking place this morning. I've prepared a little piece for it.
Well, all I'm saying then,
a musical number, no longer than 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah,
you could have gone to the challenge of actually getting dressed up for the occasion. That's all I'm saying.
It's very neutral. So the other thing that we learned a lot about this week, because Toby and I had our first trustee meeting this week, was that one of the ways that people can support Propertymark Trust is with orphaned funds. Tobes, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I think we feel that this might be a big opportunity to, and I should preface this by saying that we self-identify as a fairly small charity so far, and we want to grow. We want to step up our fundraising so that we can offer support to more and more people, and a big part of that is helping agents to identify where they have what we call orphan funds, which are unclaimed funds, unclaimed client money that's been sitting in your bank account for over 6 years, at which point you are allowed to donate that money to charity. Now, there's a couple of provisos, the important one being that charity has to commit to returning that money if it is at a later date claimed by the client. And the way the Propertymark Trust does is they do offer that guarantee. So if you have dormant funds that have been left unclaimed in your account for more than 6 years, you can use that money to put towards a great cause such as this. And you can do that with the peace of mind that if your client does show up on your doorstep in a few years' time and ask for their money back, that Propertymark Trust will help you with that. So I think that a lot of agents have this money sat unused in their accounts, and it adds up to a lot, because I think a lot of agents don't know that they can actually do something with that. So it's left to fester. It grows and grows, like all things that are left to fester. It grows, as we all know here. And we feel that raising awareness of that particular issue could be key to really helping boost the work that we can do. And so, we're going to really be mounting up an awareness campaign based on that, because I think it's
love
great
that. I mean, I'm a little bit bitter, because in my head, do you remember Superman 3, where Richard Pryor had that scam idea to take a few penny off everything? That was my long-term goal for those orphan funds. So I suppose if I've got to give it up to somebody, a good charity should be the way forwards. But I remember, and I can't obviously talk about the agent, but one of the biggest challenges we had at my previous company when we entered the accounts world was Repeat always prided itself on obviously having a perfectly balanced balanced rent roll and everything else, and you couldn't start with obviously a black mountain or a black hole. Now the black hole one was the more worrying side, but just as problematic was that black mountain of those orphan funds. And I can tell you, with a couple of the clients that we were doing it with, it was a massive fee there, and they were obviously all doing the right thing. And so that element of putting it towards good and still having the safety net, as you spoke about, if they do come back to you, is absolutely fantastic. By the way, is there no limitation if somebody comes back to you? Can they come back at any point in the future and claim it, or is there a cut-off period?
That's a great question, Simon.
Thank you. It's the first I've had on the show.
I'm not aware.
It's a great question. There's somebody out there that's Googling it right now as we speak.
You know who would know? Sophie Lang, answer the question.
She's chat GBT.
Yeah, for the time being, Sophie's just saying it's not just about finances, guys. Okay, talk about the hugs.
But you know what? One thing that we struggle with is that, you know, we all of us are constantly asked to donate to charity, and we all have charities that are close to our heart. But using your orphan funds actually just takes a massive amount of stress away from your accounts team. You know, so it definitely helps. Toby's fan getting a real moment.
Oh, we got a real comedian in the comments here. Facebook user. Who? I'd like to know who is this. I want to know who this
we
is.
will delve into that. We will find out. So in terms of raising, I mean, that's a great campaign, because I think orphan funds is something. First of all, it's not a term that we hear every day, and I think any firm that's been established for any number of years, especially those that go back to the bad old days before even sort of tenancy deposits were registered and all that, everybody's got something lurking around in the client account that doesn't belong there. So Sophie's researching it, but that's really nice to hear that. But in general, what are your we know the Propertymark one is coming up again, and we could talk a little bit about that in a second. But what are your plans in order to kind of roll this out and make it sort of front and center of what Propertymark agents are talking about? But also, how are you going to raise awareness to the extent that their families and friends are also going to know about it?
Well, I think that's part of the reason that Toby and I were recruited in, because you can't turn on LinkedIn without seeing one of our faces. So I think what we're planning to do is sort of try and boost that profile out as much as possible. I think it starts with the members, so we're going to try and get to more regional events. Obviously, for anyone that came to the NEA conference, we had the little lovely little cuddly dogs, you know, the nice little therapy dogs. I've got a great picture of one like this as David's holding it, looks terrified.
Unfortunately for me, because as you know, I'm not an attention to detail man. That's what I thought the trust was about to start off with.
And that on its own would be enough. The fact that we do more than that is a bonus.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Just to echo Megan's point there as well, Tony, for a way of teeing yourself up for a show on Sunday, your comment, "I'm currently a bit like hydrogen. I'm everywhere, but very few people know why." I know it's only the start of the year, but people are going to have to go far to beat that.
That's my current status within the industry. I seem to be asked on podcasts and stuff, but who knows why?
You're hot, my friend. We're riding your coattails.
I was thinking last night. I'm currently. I think I'm the industry equivalent of Augustus Gloop. If you know your Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I've won a ticket to the factory, and I'm going to eat as much as I can while I'm here. Yeah. Before I get chucked out.
But we all know what happened to Augustus Gloop in the end, didn't we? And here's Simon with a song about it.
Yes.
That was perfect. I couldn't have set that up for you any better.
Do you know what, Dave?
He got stage 3 diabetes, David. So it's a sad story.
Do you know what was interesting though? Me and Toby, we sat on the phone for about 3 hours this week, and we were sat there and we were like, what we're going to put on our LinkedIn bio? And he was like, 37th most influential person on the Kerfuffle list, with 1 vote from Megan 18.
Yeah.
Not the last bit.
But joking aside, so this Facebook user that loves you so much is actually none other than the Viking Christian Byfield, tuning in from his lair across the sea. And he's mentioned here that he loves your various descriptions of how cold Manchester was. But genuinely, and I said this to Megan in a private moment this week, that what impresses me about you is I like talented people. And I think it shows an immense amount of dedication and talent to sort of script these things out in advance and prepare what you're going to film. I loved you did a hotel review as well, which was just superb. I think a lot of dedication goes into that sort of little TikTok habit of yours.
I'm flattered that you used the word script there.
Well, if you tell me it's unscripted, I'll be like, whoa, now he's even more talented than I thought he was.
I think that it's lovely to get comments on my social media nonsense, but I view that mainly as just kind of doing stupid things on the internet. And that's what it is basically. But the fact that there's some entertainment in it is great. I just think that it's a little bit refreshing when people don't take themselves too seriously online. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but ultimately you've got to be a little bit different.
There's no hubris in this room, let me tell you.
There's certainly no script involved, though.
It was a very magical moment, wasn't there, Tabes, when we got to meet, because we'd been friends online for ages, and he got given a job as an ALA exec, but they don't tell us. We don't know until they announce these things. And we're in the exec day, and I'm sat at the back of the room. He's sat at the front of the room. They put all the new execs together, and he stands up, and I was like, Toby! It's Toby!
Let's not forget, all I really am is like a fanboy here who got lucky. Because like Megan was doing stuff online long before I was, as were the rest of you. And I remember when I first met Megan, and I was like, I don't know if she'll even know who I am, because, you know, she does those those videos on TikTok, and I'm just basically trying to rip them off. And I was like, oh my God, she actually knows who I am. It's lovely to get these comments, but I certainly copying other people.
Is it really Megan on TikTok? Because I see a few Megans on TikTok these days.
Yeah, I know.
Some of us are worth cloning, apparently.
Exactly.
I would love to be cloned. Hats. Oh no, I probably shouldn't say this, because I know how this is going to end.
You know what? Whatever they do with your account and whoever clones it, they're going to be better behaved than you will be, and that's. I think I told you, David, when I was on the slab. I told my friend Noel that if anything went wrong, he was to come in. I hadn't given him a code. He was just to eat my iPhone. Basically, it was just to make the whole thing disappear, so that even my digital memory was just scorched earth.
I was actually.
Oh, go on. Sorry,
I was actually furious because Megan had an imposter TikTok account set up.
Yeah.
And we noticed it after 24 hours. And after 24 hours, it already had double the amount of followers that I do. And I thought, if I can't even outperform a fake Megan, then what chance do the rest of us have?
Hey, I'll tell you what's going to be really interesting there. And this is totally aside. We need to get back on topic, but famously we don't. I wonder what will happen in obviously AI is taking over in all these different areas. There's going to have to be like AI-powered sort of fake accounts and things like that, aren't there? That will just, shamelessly retweet, refollow. It's going to be. Oh, we need to investigate.
That's what TikTok thinks David is. I think he's a robot.
Yeah.
So I started pumping out. So I realized that I'm sat on years and years of humorous clips, because I'd just like to say to everybody that Mince and Whale were the first property podcast with humor, and it was vaguely interesting. I can date it all the way back to something like 2018. So we were there, we put our flag in the ground well and truly. But I've started downloading all these clips, and I gave it to this, that clip machine we're using to put them all together. Yeah. And I pumped them all out on TikTok, and I was getting some, good views for me, a couple of 100 people, 300 people. And then all of a sudden it drops to like 3 people every time, because the TikTok algorithm, I'm just a bot.
I said to him, you need to vary it. And he was like, why? I said, put something else up and it will fix it. And what happened?
I put some videos of my kids fighting and dancing, and it instantly went back, because it draws in a crowd of the dark web.
Yeah. You go for whatever clicks you can get, David. We won't worry about that. Can I just obviously keen to just drag it right back to the charity we're looking at here. The orphan accounts and everything else. Have you had conversations with the CRM companies as well? Because I think I think we should probably put a shout out on here too, because those guys could orchestrate that. Obviously, there it strikes me as such a fantastic, obviously, idea to get behind as well. So we'll tag them in here, and obviously, if you want us to, we'll introduce you to any of the ones that matter. But I think it would be a lovely campaign to again show all of the CRM companies working together on this, wouldn't it, to try and get this going together. And all I want is 25%.
Enough money from the industry last year, Simon Whale. It sounds like that there's like a collaboration brewing. Just feels that way. But yes, absolutely.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if your CRM just had a button saying identify orphan funds? It can't be that hard.
Yeah, build it.
That's what I always used to say.
And in fact, can we just make an impassioned plea to the CRM suppliers in the industry? If your CRM doesn't have a button that says identify orphan funds, is it really doing the job you want it to?
Build it.
And because we have 20 subscribing members who are CRM companies, do what you want, guys. Just do what you want.
Somebody's saying that they shouldn't support that petition, but I think that petition needs to be signed. I think it's a very, very important thing.
That couldn't have been a more perfect place for that banner to go across my leggings.
I had to. It was the only way I could get it to accept it. Change.org don't normally accept petitions from people with the genitals on the outside.
Sophie's great shout there. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
In fact, we're shamelessly doing a film piece because we are we're such characters. So we will raise that with them, Sophie. Well done there.
And pay props, sweetheart. You know what you to do.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got a nice hamper. I saw that on Facebook this week. So maybe let's nicely segue into this, because now we're going into sort of random and assorted property matters.
As opposed to the organised, structured
podcast. As opposed to the hard-hitting news items that we bring up in the first part of the show. Sophie got a hamper, and I don't want to know what she's done to get that, but obviously they're PayProp customers, which is amazing. And this week I saw you guys somewhere, and again, suppliers were involved, and whenever merch rolls out, everybody goes, ooh, and they pick it up and they look at it. And we all joke about it before conferences, but how important is it? Do you really feel spoiled when a supplier sends you a hamper, or do you think, shit, yeah, this is my hamper because I've spent so much money with them? Like, does it make you warm and tingly? Is there anything more that suppliers can be doing?
David, do you remember during lockdown where wasn't it Rightmove sent out the biscuits?
Yes. But it has a bit of context, because I think Rightmove had royally shafted agents at the beginning of lockdown by saying, if you can submit your accounts and prove that you've had financial hardship, we'll agree to hold, I think it was 15% or something, in abeyance. And then what they did was they sent out a very small packet of biscuits, like literally one branded Rightmove cookie.
And somebody showed, because obviously inevitably, as would happen with post and packaging, somebody showed a viral package the biscuits that were crushed to pieces, and he said, well, this couldn't be a greater metaphor, could it, for our relationship?
Well, but going back to the question,
the worst thing though, like when I was in lockdown, I was supposed to go on the Star Performers LSL trip to Ibiza, and they're like, booby prize because soz are in lockdown, was they sent me an Ibiza Classics CD. I was like, who owns a CD player anymore? Like, I couldn't even play it. I had to give it away.
It's a generational thing. It's a generational thing.
CD collection, by the way, it's right here.
Nice.
So Sophie's saying that she's in the top 7% of all PayProp customers, and they must have received those hampers. But that's akin to sort of sending your biggest fans a gift. So my question to both of you: what do you want from suppliers in terms of giving you perks? Is it discounts that you want, or do you like merch? Do you like a hamper? Do you want a guitar, Toby?
Tell us so that we can shamelessly monetize this feedback.
We would like one of everything. Thank you, Simon.
There's no wrong answer here.
I think, do you know what? It's love. So discounts first and foremost, saving money, always a pleasure. But if you're going to send something, my only bugbear is, for example, like at Easter last year, I got sent an Easter egg, right? My team, like one Easter egg and like a massive team, like it just doesn't work. And like I think the hamper's beautiful as long as there's enough that you can share it out. Because day, if you send, you can send the director or the manager, a nice bottle of bubby, that's fine. But it's so much nicer when you can get, so for example, Jake from Maverick Recruitment, he came in and bought us enough Krispy Kreme donuts to feed our office about 6 times. That goes way further than one bottle of wine.
Yeah, he just charge a 30% finder's fee so we can afford it.
Exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, the problem we get is, as sort of the leaders of the business, we all get lovely gifts from suppliers. That's so nice, but it's so much nicer when we can share it with the team.
So can I just ask on your first point there, because obviously, as you quite rightly said, the discount, how do you want to receive that discount? Because is a discount these days that believable? One of the things we struggle with is a lot of the suppliers on the platform say we're going to give 5% away, 10% away, and there's that whole, is it really DFS's closing down sale? People just have a great degree of suspicion around the discount. What can the suppliers do to qualitatively show that discount is real?
But I think it comes back to a bit like, when you do your car insurance and you log on to compare the market and you can see that you can get it 50% cheaper if you were a new customer. Yeah. I think that, Kerfuffle's almost compare the market, and you see all these amazing discounts, which is fabulous. Yeah. But then I want them to be like, thanks for being loyal. What we've done to say thank you is for the next 3 months, we've given you 50% off, just to say thank you for carrying on with us. Because let's face it, for every prospecting tool, you've got 10 of them. For every CRM, there's hundreds. We could go shopping every time we come up for renewal. There's only a few prop techs that are completely unique. So for me, I think rewarding people for that renewal would be a nice touch.
I noticed that there's one supplier in particular that has kidnapped people, put them on a boat and held them hostage on a cruise until they sign a new contract. But I think that's just Sally Lawson and Agent X, if I'm not mistaken. No, they do a cruise. They do a cruise, which is different. And this is actually I was being facetious, obviously, Sally. Love you. But when you've got your clients on effectively on a floating hotel that they can't escape from, you need to be really sure that there's a lot of love in the room, because I can imagine after 2 or 3 days that might go a little bit sour. But it's a good idea. Do you think you can manage it, Simon?
Well, I thought when you were just going to start talking about the whole boat thing, considering that the Propertymark after party is on the boat, that I was praying that you weren't going to suddenly start shooting the hand that feeds us.
I actually, when I saw the cruise, I was like, oh, not sure I could do a cruise. And then Toby said to me, he went, what if it was a Propertymark cruise? I was like, yeah, I'd totally be there. And then I was like, I think it just depends on the group of people that you're with, isn't it?
It's not Love Island, Roper Island or something.
Oh, yeah, Roper Island sounds a great show.
I think it sounds like the premise of an ITV murder drama. I would not get on the same boat as like.
Well, I can be Poirot. I can be Poirot now.
Yeah, Roper Island. It's not quite as exciting or as controversial as Epstein Island, but it's look at.
But highly intellectual when it comes to Love Island.
We haven't been named.
I have already mooted the idea of hijacking the Propertymark 1 boat.
I told them it was set in concrete.
So can we just agree?
Yeah.
Can we just agree then, an initiative that we can all get behind? It's not too controversial, but this year, if you are attending the Propertymark 1 after party on the boat, please do come fully dressed as a pirate. Now, there will be prizes for the best pirate outfit. If any of you can get hold of, without being too cruel, if you can get hold of real parrots, that will add to the mayhem. So please.
I'm so pissed off. Normally I have a pirate hat around me here. So that's the sort of subversive shit we need to get behind, by the way, David. That's why I love you. Your enthusiasm for this sort of stuff. Every time you can imagine Nathan and that, they see a pirate, it's like, those kerfuffle.
Maybe it should be like under the sea. So like you could come as like a mermaid, or you could come as a pirate, but you could also come as like a crab.
Okay, well, that's a good juncture to segue into a completely other subject when we talk about the differences between what pirates earn and mermaids. So I don't know if anybody's seen, but Chris Watkin has got this this image floating around Facebook at the moment, and a debate about whether or not women would be upset if they're or they report that their partners are upset if they earn more than their male partner. And it's incensed and enraged Megan 18, who has thus far remained quiet on the subject. So over to Megan.
She's always so angry about this stuff.
Why is she angry? Why?
I'm passionate. I'm passionate. I'm not angry.
Every serial killer ever.
I know, right? You wouldn't suspect me. This is the best part. How do I start?
Well, the beginning.
Yeah, that's a good point. The problem for me is that these conversations, I'm like, who's having them?
Yeah.
You know, so if I was somebody that's like, you know, doing pretty well, you know, would I stay in a relationship where the man was like, oh babe, you need to earn less money? No, you know, I'm so sorry. Like, if you as a man are intimidated by a woman's earnings, then you need to go and find a different partner. And it's nothing to do with, you know, I just think it's just such an ego thing. Like, I don't actually believe it, to be honest.
I said the exact same thing to Chris. I said, are there really tiny penis males out there that this is an issue with? Now, I appreciate I'm wokey whale, but...
Okay, but just to rip that open, there will be... Look, there are plenty of tiny penis males in this industry. Loads, right? I mean, we all know who they are. We're not going to name and shame.
But next week's show, we're going to list them.
We haven't got long enough. No,
you know what happened last week, boys. We don't need another repeat. Let's
but if you were to look at, I think Megan hit the nail on the head. It's who is having this conversation. Why, Mr. Watkin, are you asking that question? Shouldn't the question be, does it piss you off in the house if, you know, you're not able to be around to do the things that you want to do? You know, there's a division of labor between both partners in the house. It doesn't even need to be different genders. There could be same-sex relationships. In any partnership, in any business partnership, somebody does some of the heavy lifting on some things and somebody has to do the heavy lifting on the other. And the secret to any good partnership is knowing where those boundaries are and how you complement each other. But I think at the core of it is, if you can't support your partner to achieve the best that they possibly can in life, then do you want them as a partner in the first place anyway? So I actually think by asking the question, you're forcing it down that horrible gender politics cul-de-sac, which we all know where that ends, and it just ends in frustration. And you can have as many women go, oh, absolutely, yeah, this is exactly what my partner's like. But it's not about that. In 2024, there's a myriad of issues. You know, who goes to parents' evening? Who, you know, we divvy that up in our house, for instance, because we can't always be around at the same time, and some people need to do different things. And I think it's so much more than just the financial argument. But when you bring it down to gender and you bring it down to money, all you get is that baseline of shitty clickbait.
I couldn't agree more. Like our partnership, me and you, David, you know, I could have got really bitter when you were chosen to speak at the Women in the Estate Agency Conference, but I didn't. I thought that's really good for him. He needs to grow and be better. So I supported you on that. I didn't talk to you for 5 days, but I saw the bigger picture.
It's true. There are tensions in our partnership all the time, Simon. Like when you've just revealed to me today that you're going on Agents Giving without me. Not going on it, winning it.
Never. You're going down, Whale. We're going to start a band.
Do it.
Sophie's point here is absolutely right, that funds are just one small part of a long-term relationship, but you need to respect and appreciate what each person brings to the household and not just money.
Yeah, plus I'm not being funny. Like, there's got to be something quite nice about being a kept man, right? Like, isn't it quite nice, really? Like,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's what women in the estate agency are going to be leading with this year. Do you want to be a top man? You're at the right conference.
You know what, though? It comes down to it. So someone commented, I can't see who it was, about someone being what was the word? Ambitious. So let's call a spade a spade. About it on LinkedIn. So Harry, her husband, was approached at an event, and they said to him, "How do you cope with such an ambitious wife?" And he was like, "What?" Like, I mean, he loves it, you know. Yeah. You know, Harry is like, you know, she is making tracks like, honestly, she paved the way for, I certainly think, for me as a woman. Like, I felt I could do things because Harry was doing them. Yeah. And I think he is. I mean, Sam's an absolute babe. Like, he completely cheerleads that. And I think that's a perfect example of a secure man that's not intimidated. He's just like, yeah, you go, girl. You know, that's like, I'm not being funny. When you look around your home and you think, yeah, we've earned this together in different ways, and who gives a shit who earned what?
Yeah. How do you what's the right approach with that, though? Should you pander to that insecurity, or should you call it out?
No, sack it off. If they're insecure, bugger off and find a new partner.
Yeah.
I think, but I think also we have responsibility. So just as, I mean, we are very, what's the word? I suppose we're very irresponsible with our responsibility, because we know that we've got a channel to the public, but we use it to poke fun very often, and to deliver up certain key issues with a bit of humour. And you have to be a little bit careful with it, but I hope we don't fall the wrong side of certain things. But I think that people, I know I constantly do, but I'm all about pushing boundaries. But I think people like Chris, who has an immense amount of respect in the industry as an interviewer. You've all been on his sofa. There is a question of whether or not he ever cleans that sofa, but we'll get to that another time. But you know, that sofa has seen an awful lot of faces. It's covered a lot of topics, but with that power and that profile comes a lot of responsibility, because he has the option to choose editorially what he covers, just as our newspapers, and we've covered this before, just as our industry press can choose what they cover. And by covering the wrong angles, we're going to get the wrong results.
So am I getting from this then that you were, because I saw, who was it? Somebody spoke about your rant there. Did you genuinely get frustrated by Chris actually posting that in its own right then? Because I don't have any problem with him doing it.
I was going to touch on that.
Yeah,
because I think I know where you're coming from, David. And I just think that, especially when you're dealing with very sensitive subjects like gender issues.
Yeah.
My question would be, when you're putting out a post like that, what is your intention? And if you're just using an issue like that for engagement, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You should be doing it with the aim to either have a constructive conversation with a goal to improving things, or, you know, what is your ambition by posting that post? Is it just to get engagement? If so, I don't think that you're using this issue in the right way. So, you know, I would just say that for anybody, I think if you're going to put out a post like that, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and not just for clicks.
Well, because you said it now, I'm going to change my position as I always do.
To me, it's exactly what Toby said, very, very eloquently. But when you see that, you know, the imagery that's being used of the man there casting that long shadow with all those roots and his little wife.
It makes you wonder what he typed into ChatGPT.
To get that stuff. I often wonder that. But it is, you know, we talk about dog whistle politics, which is choosing the issues of the day that cause all the extremists to come running and debating. And again, this is almost dog whistle journalism, isn't it?
That's great.
But I think bringing it down to earnings and to gender, it just places that debate somewhere. I think genuinely, there's a massive debate to be had, and I'd like to see it covered sometime. You know, Megan has previously referred to what they call as mum guilt, but let's face it, there is parent guilt, isn't there? Yeah, there is parent guilt. So there are times when both parents, either parent, can't be there enough, and they feel that they should be there enough. And God knows that's probably one of the biggest issues in our industry, is the fact that we don't know when to take time out. We don't do self-care particularly well. We get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we're having that sandwich in our car full of self-loathing, and we know it's only a couple of hours till we go home and have to face the family. But you know, these are things, these are everyday issues that I think should be spoken about. It's not about how much either's partner earns and how that makes us feel, because that's an issue of ego, isn't it? That's it, and that is the horrible narcissistic side of ego. That, and let's face it, if you are jealous of your partner's achievements, I think you're right. You're probably not in the right relationship. It's not healthy for them, and it's not healthy for you. And you need to look at it differently. But if you're in a relationship in which you understand that there are some unavoidable responsibilities in life, and you don't need to have kids to have unavoidable responsibilities, but there are certain responsibilities and there are certain things that we all have to do to get through our daily lives that we don't necessarily want to do with a full heart of joy, but we have to, then a fair division of that and working out where our boundaries lie, I think really makes for a good and balanced relationship. But not that you should take relationship advice from me, but you certainly shouldn't be driving it down that gender route, because I just think we've come far enough now to sort of really champion what women's rights, if you like, but also what they earn, and the fact that there's still a gap. You know, talk about that if you want to talk about it. But there is still a massive pay gap there. These are and what we don't want to do is take momentum out of those key debates by putting it into, and the husband didn't feel very well about that. You know,
do you know what though, David? And what I will say is, and maybe I'm alone in this, but I don't think I am, based on the women that I like to sort of talk to day to day. As women, we are plagued with mental load, and that includes massive insecurities. So we're out here trying to fight for a fair pay, you know, for equal rights in all aspects, right? And then suddenly someone starts niggling at you, right? And they go, oh, but is your partner okay about that? You know, and it starts to erode at us, you know, alongside that mental load. I had a situation where Dexter's dad got a new job and everyone was like, great, congratulations, that's amazing. I get a new job and everyone's like, oh, how are you going to cope with Dexter? Why is that fair?
Yeah, that's very telling, isn't it? That really is very telling, just in the way that's still ingrained in the standard responses.
Whaley, I think they'd just be congratulating you that you got a job. I don't think everybody... They'd be like, oh, you got a job.
An actual real job. Oh, my God. Yeah. So I want to, first of all, let's close out. I think that's really, really interesting discussion and everything else. And we would just cry out to Chris Watkins. Could we please see all of the AI things that have been rejected? If those are the ones you're posting, I'd like to see which ones in the lab never made it. Toby, I'm really, really keen. Your first time, obviously, on this with us.
It's Tony. It's Tony.
Of course, yeah, you get that. In terms of, we like to understand where people come from on this, both in terms of the people they respect within the industry and those supplier partners that we always obviously need to give a shout out to. Who are the people that influence you in this industry, and try and limit it, because we don't want to keep you here all day.
Oh, well, this is.
Don't say Megan again, because
because I've already admitted that I kind of just basically stole her shtick.
We'll give her one. She's a freebie.
You know, I kind of feel that to a large extent I've got to where I have by kind of just hanging on to the coattails of other people and going on the ride. You know, Harry Truman, absolutely instrumental in getting me involved with Propertymark.
Yeah.
She goes as far as boasting that she groomed me for the role. Sophie Lang in the comments there. You mentioned suppliers also in the comments, because I want this to be as awkward as possible. Christian, what he's done at the depository there is phenomenal. By far my favourite piece of tech that we use.
And just to elaborate on it there, Tom, what is it? What is it about, for example, the depository? Is he a special case because, of course, coming from both angles, he understands that that better than other ivory tower techies?
Yeah, I imagine so. Because what I love about the depository is it has a very specific purpose, and it aims to really solve one issue, and it does it brilliantly. It's not an overarching piece of prop tech that says we're going to change every single aspect of your working life. It's like, we're going to sort out the deposit return process because that is a pain in the ass and it takes up too much time. Yeah. And I love really specific solutions to things, and I just love how they take that one bit.
Do you think on that? Do you think that's the way? Obviously, what you highlighted there in terms of one system to rule them all was what a number of people went down the route, and indeed via merger and acquisition they're trying to do now. It strikes me in this age where at least you should be able to integrate easier, that actually those companies that are looking at those niche areas and just doing them incredibly well, that they're the ones that have the opportunity ahead of them. Do you concur with that, or do you think there's a space for a kind of overall arching system?
I kind of feel like I've come out the other side of that in terms of, sitting down and going, right, I need one piece of software that's going to remove all other, I was talking with you guys about this the other day, the whole too many logins thing. So maybe the answer isn't to have too many logins. Maybe the answer is to have those logins integrated in a better way into your system.
Single sign-on, they call it, don't they? That would be a dream, wouldn't it, in most...
Yeah.
Most
yeah,
businesses.
Absolutely. Because I think that ultimately it's using depository as an example. I think when you do try and solve one solution, you're going to do it far more effectively than if you're going to try and provide an overarching piece of software that does everything. Something is going to be dropped. Something's going to be inadequate or not as thorough as you'd like it to be. I think that's a good point. I think that concentrating on little niches and perfecting them and then integrating that within a wider system is probably the way forward.
An American said to me the other day, niche, and I hung up on them, the outrageous destruction of our language was not to be allowed there. Any other suppliers that you respect, even if you don't use them? Who catches your eye out there in supplier world? That many. That says a lot about our industry.
Yeah, it's funny because generally speaking, I love tech, but I try to minimize how much I use of it, because you can go overboard and you can lose sight of the things that matter, which is personal touches and is that
what tech needs to do for you then, is improve that personal touch aspect of the business?
I'm basically in a position now where I look to tech to basically free up my time. And so we're quite late to the party, but we've just got on board with Moneypenny.
Yep.
And again, that's another specific example. It solves one problem, but they do it to a high standard. And to just a call back to a previous topic, they sent me socks. And so, but again, they just offer one service, really. Yeah. One essential service, and I think they're great. They have such high standards, and it integrates really seamlessly into our systems, and it just frees up time. And ultimately, I think that is the main thing that I look to tech to do.
That's what tech is all about at its basic core, isn't it? Helping you do more with less, basically. Yeah.
See, Sarah, I can draw a floor plan. I can draw a floor plan. And it doesn't take that long.
Is it one of those things that you secretly love doing?
I do, except for the 1 in 100 occasions where I say, I'll go out and do the floor plan, and I turn up and it's a tower which is completely circular, and I'm like, plan up, can't do this. So I'm just that client has to make do with the fact their floor plan is a hexagon. Sorry.
Yeah, a nice shout out there for Giraffe. I love that kit. I tell you what, were you going to test Giraffe on me? That sounds shocking.
I was going to test it. So Whaley and I have been thinking of no spoilers there, I hope, but we're thinking of ways that we can jazz up our reporting on supplier solutions, because I think what the days of watching these Zoom screens with me going, so tell me, Simon, how did you come up with your plan to launch Giraffe 360? And then you tell me how it all came about. It's interesting, but during lockdown, that was what people were listening to, and that's great. But today, they want to see this tech out there in the field. And I'd like to know, with all tech, how quickly or how easily are my staff members actually going to be able to pick it up and implement it? And I think if I could choose somebody, a savant maybe, like Simon Whale, who breaks every bit of tech that ever came into his hands, if we could give it to Whaley and he could use it straight out of the box, then that to me is a great piece of tech.
There's your challenge, people. If it will work on Simple Simon, it will work for everybody.
You could have like a Whaley approved, like.
We've already got the K. The little K for quality is already. We're a bit worried it looks too much like the KKK, but we're going to work through that.
Yeah, you should.
We're an edgy pink brand at the best of times, but yeah.
Do you know what? You're absolutely right, though. I have a pet hate, which is when I go on a supplier's website and they don't show you what the platform looks like. And they'll have generic videos, maybe with some animations of some cartoon people.
An explainer video.
Looking happy. And I find myself, there'll be one little thumbnail that's like a screenshot of the login page. And I'll be zooming in on that going, I just want to see what it looks like.
Toby, do you know what that's about? And I can tell you this because I used to get paranoid. What happens is the suppliers all think they've got some absolutely secret thing that they don't want to show people there, and there is, their competitors couldn't find out within seconds there, so they don't show it. And I think one of the things we've seen is those suppliers that come on and are really ballsy with it and will almost do a brief demonstration, Apple style. People like, Mavs did it for Akaboom there, and she got a couple of orders, live on there. You've got to put yourself out there, haven't you, to demonstrate to people these days.
Yeah.
It's not unique enough to stand on its own 2 feet when you show it online, then it's not worth it, is it?
Yeah. No. I will pass by companies who don't do a demo on their website or just screenshots of what the platform looks like.
Sub question: how important, and a little bit controversial, how important are looks, or is it all about personality? So typically, I mean, if I were talking about where Simon was
talking about PropTech here, are we going back?
I'm absolutely talking about PropTech.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to give 2 fantastic examples. Okay. So I signed up to Jet, which was Simon's light version of Repeat. This is many years ago. And I wanted a recommendation as to whether or not I should take it. And the agent I spoke to said, it looks like it's come out the control panel of a Soviet submarine, but I promise you it works. There's very little downtime and it works. And they were right. In fairness, it was pig ugly, but it worked. Now, if you take something like Street, which I don't know if any of you demoed it, you've seen it, you've been a customer. Sorry, you use it?
Both using it.
Okay, so all Street users, fantastic. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful user experience, both for the people in the office, but also, crucially for me, the customer as the end beneficiary of all the work that we do. They have a login and they have a lovely, beautiful experience as well. So aesthetically, that is tremendously well received. But how important is that? Do you want your PropTech products to look beautiful, or do you get a little bit disappointed when you log in and you go, oh, that's a bit basic, but it still does the job?
I like it to look pretty, but it wouldn't be a decision maker for me. If it's not functional, then it's all fur coat, no knickers, isn't it? For example, when I was a property manager at Chancellor's, we had this tech that when it was like, oh, I need to look at the accounts, you had to press like F16, F7, F4 to get to the account screen.
Yeah.
Like learning code to do anything, that was hideous and completely not fit for function. I mean, once you knew the code, you felt like you were a proper whiz, but it wasn't ideal. It was like something out of like a 90s, first round on the computers. But they also had a system that ran alongside it that was very pretty. So I think pretty helps, because if it's easy to see what's going on. But for me, if it's lacking functionality, it doesn't matter how pretty it is. It's like going on a date with the most beautiful person in the world, and then you start speaking to them and they're a total moron. Like,
I get that a lot. I get that a lot.
What can I say, Simon? I was looking at you as I said it.
Of course you are. You're looking at a Zoom screen. That's how this works.
And I think that's also there is a certain. I watch my kids on an iPad or whatever it is, and although I spend all day with tech and I consider myself quite up on most things, they seem to have been, this generation seems to have been born with this innate ability just to know where everything is, and their fingers are flying around at a million miles. And I'm amazed at what they were able to sort of do as toddlers that took me.
David, have you seen that? It's really bizarre when you see kids going up to normal TV screens and they're like squeezing the screen to try and zoom in and zoom out. That's second nature intuition of how.
Yeah, they've been raised with that. So to a certain extent, all the next generation of people that we're going to be employing in this industry are coming with a sort of, I suppose, an experience of what a UX should
and expectation, isn't it? It's the expectation. And if you're, unfortunately for you, if you're not at the pace with what is defined as the normal these days, you're going to be held wanting, aren't you?
I remember walking into a hotel with Dexter, and he must have only been 2, and he walked in and went, "Alexa, play Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round." And I was like, no, she's not everywhere. Like, you know, she's not
computer and simulation.
I was like, oh my God, we're so screwed, this next generation. But I do think that it's exciting because it gives us a real opportunity to continue to evolve. And let's face it, the most evolution our industry has had is because we had a lockdown. You know, suddenly we're having to do videos. I'm not being funny. The amount of agents that did videos pre-COVID, I mean, I didn't do videos pre-COVID. You know, it was like non-existent. Whereas now we're all presenting like our own TV shows almost every day. You know, it's a completely different field, and I think it's really exciting.
Can I ask Toby a question before he goes? Toby, you live in the historic, lovely Roman city of Bath, as you call it, and obviously a lot of rich culture and heritage over there. Your videos on the ground, so we all know you within the industry, so you've got a great following, and we're massive fans of the work that you're putting out. How does it translate to the actual home crowd at Bath? Are you getting recognized going down Tesco's or Waitrose or wherever it is that you people shop?
Yeah, I have to have quite a big entourage as I go around town. But no, it is effective. It does work. The whole kind of personal branding, or whatever you want to call it, approach of putting yourself out there does work. And it's being involved in local community groups on Facebook and in real life. And yeah, you do get people drop by, and I had someone come by the office to see me yesterday because they'd seen some of the stuff that I do, listened to some of the podcasts I've been on, and they were a person looking to break into the industry and just wanted to come for some professional advice. But equally, yeah, you know the whole argument of like a market appraisal. If they already know you when you arrive at the door, then you're going to have an instant advantage over somebody who they've never seen, or every time someone sees you on screen, if you're doing it right, you're already building trust and familiarity.
And the public don't necessarily need their professional advisors to be serious and morose the whole time. They do like a bit of levity. They do like somebody coming down to a baseline level of humor that everybody can appreciate.
I think so. I mean, I'm putting all my eggs firmly in that basket, and I do think that if you're talking about building trust and familiarity, you think about the people who you see on a screen day in, day out, and are they, are you more likely to trust somebody who comes across as quite a bland, very serious figure? And we always have a temptation when we're doing content to want to be serious because we want to be taken seriously. We're dealing with serious subject matter, so the temptation is to we have a lot of gravity in how we talk. But actually, the people who you feel most familiar with, who you see on a screen, are the ones who evoke some kind of emotion, make you laugh. probably not make you cry, but you want to invoke some kind of response in your audience, and you're not going to do that by being like a newsreader.
I get that. Toby, can I just ask, how long does it take to get that personal brand to kind of sink into, how long before it starts paying dividends?
Oh, it's a long game.
It is,
yeah. I mean, for me, when I thought, okay, I'm going to start trying to do what Megan does, I thought, yeah, from when you start putting it out, I think this is where a lot of people recognize the value in doing this, but they fall off early. They put out some videos, they don't get an initial response, so they go, oh, well, it doesn't work, does it? But you've got to be doing it regularly and consistently, probably for at least a year, before you actually start getting people go, hey, you're that guy who does those videos.
But that's brilliant, isn't it, Toby, really? Because that stops that. That's a genuine barrier to entry, isn't it? In terms of, you've got to invest that time. You can't be fly by night and everything else. And as long as you keep doing it, you're going to be one of those people that's guaranteed to be invited in. I always think that the amazing property video solution guys keep highlighting it. And I think the problem is we get caught up in our own bubble because we see the likes of you, Megan, we see Michelle Gallagher and that. But we're actually still massively in the minority, aren't we, on that? And the amount of people that give it a go large and then disappear off because they haven't got those really quick results is a real issue.
I think a lot of people look at... Sorry.
No, you go. You carry on. No,
I think a lot of people look at LinkedIn and they go, "Oh, everyone's doing it now." But actually, if you think about a local level, if you look at your neighbouring agencies and you look at the people who run those agencies and their social media feeds, you'll probably find that barely any of them are doing it on a case-by-case basis. So if you look at your local opportunity, then actually, it by and large, it's still there to be kind of an early adopter in terms of people who do this kind of thing.
I was just going to add that whilst you all know Toby for his videos and all of that, what you should know him for is he does Toby's tours of Bath.
I do.
And what I will say is it was a magical experience having brought my friend from America over. Yeah. And I said, Tobes, we're going to come visit. And it was a magical experience, wasn't it, Tobes?
We went to Greg's. Then... It started raining. We did go and stand outside the Royal Crescent. You asked me historical questions about it. I couldn't answer them.
Nothing like being that undisputed expert in your own area.
We had a photo with the Jane Austen.
But I think you joke about that, but I think there's actually space for somebody that does take themselves extremely seriously in an Alan Partridge sort of way. Yeah. So serious that it's funny. Yeah. I think, Toby, that could be your alter ego doing tours around Bath. I think you should. It would
catch on, wouldn't it? Yeah, if you did it in a really serious vein, but you went to Greg's.
Oh, it would be amazing. And obviously, if it doesn't work out and it crashes your business, this isn't advice.
No, this is just friendly bounce. So to end this, but on something that I think will add value for people, you both have touched on LinkedIn today. And I'm very much aware that LinkedIn is a space that is changing almost against its own will, though, because there are still some people that go, this is a professional space. You shouldn't be talking about such things over here. This isn't Facebook. If you want to talk about that, go to Facebook.
Stop doing your Peter Knight impression.
That was not Peter. That was not Peter. Congratulations, by the way, Peter. It's not me. But I was angling at being a page boy there, Simon. Anyway, not going to happen. But
you're my plus one.
But I think actually putting video content onto LinkedIn was initially controversial because nobody was doing it. And now you guys have started to do it quite regularly. And I think what you guys have understood is that if you post regularly on LinkedIn, you're actually going to get quite a lot of engagement over there because it's a quieter space sometimes. Where do you see LinkedIn? Do you see it changing?
Everything's changing but you. I think that LinkedIn has evolved over the years that I've been active on it. For me, the video thing came purely from the fact that the algorithm likes it. So, you know, I was pulling my TikTok videos initially across, and then I was recording stuff, you know, just because the engagement on videos is far higher than people who write a post or put a picture. There's this really great hot sheet on LinkedIn about how the algorithm works, and it may well be refreshed this year. And one of those things is that you have to obviously be consistent. They also recommend you're consistent at the same time every day. So like you build a consistency at like 8 a.m. So like my posts will always typically come out at the same time.
It's like me on the throne.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a really reliable poo schedule. And then I think probably lastly, one of the things that me and Toby quite often get really irritated about is when you forget, like when you make a really bad, like annoying spelling mistake. Yeah. Because if you go in and edit your post within like the first hour, it like strips the algorithm out and it's like, nope.
Is
so like,
that right?
Yeah. So what you'll tend to find is if we feel like we've written a really good post, this is a little secret, right? If there's a really good post and one of us has got a spelling mistake on it, we'll fire it to the little WhatsApp group we've got and we'll all jump on it to reboot the algorithm back up.
Ooh, yeah, this is gold dust.
Oh my.
You know that the LinkedIn algorithm apparently really likes PDFs. So I think we should do another one of these where we're like, guys, you got to really get into PDF.
Yeah,
I'm going to be the PDF guy.
That's got to be for Stephen Brown's podcast. That's a lot more sort of
PDF. Can I just remind you all that PDF stands for Portable Document Format? Thank you. Wow. Have a great weekend.
Content we've all been waiting for.
It's gone unexpectedly highbrow. Yeah.
Just before we go, can we just anyone who wants to get involved with the fantastic, obviously the charitable side of things and everything else, we've established they can find you anywhere on social. Anywhere else?
So you can email us, which is our last names at propertymark.co.uk. But probably the easiest thing is just to slide into one of our DMs, and we'll be delighted to help.
Beautiful.
But in a nice way. Don't put anything inappropriate.
I think the Propertymark Trust should have a page on Kerfuffle. Do they not?
We will do that for you. If it doesn't taint the charity, we would love to set it up for you.
No, we would do that. Thank
I'm
you.
sure they'd be grateful for all the support.
Our standard terms 20% of any charitable donations.
I'd like to just apologise to our last guest of the day, Mr. Charlie Landon. We've run out of time, but we will get to you next time. I'm so sorry. Have a great week, everybody out there in property land. Take care.
Cheers, Sophie, Sarah, and Christian for commenting. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you for having me.